All right, fire it up. Let's do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
That's fine. Take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. Good luck to you.
Fight like hell like we do every week. You are the best here. Brett, be affirmative. You told me to get on.
Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Record. Hell yeah. 11 got it.
Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4. Great job, guys.
And welcome back to another week of racing in the draft. My name is Mark. Thanks for joining in. And we are headed to Homestead, Miami this week. Warm weather, beautiful track, awesome racing. Miss having this race as the final race of the year, but Phoenix is an okay second. At least we hope so this year. But mile and a half tracks have been the best racing so far this year, especially with this next-gen car. Hopefully, Miami will not disappoint. At least in the Xfinity and truck race, were very exciting if you happen to watch those. And boy, what a run by Noah Gragson yesterday. Can Noah Gragson pull it off again today? Get the sweep? Maybe. We'll see. But before we do that, let's head back to the desert in Las Vegas and review last week's race. Optimal lineups. As kind of expected, we needed to have at least one dominator. Ross Chastain leading 68 laps. Not quite to the 30% that I like to really see for a dominant race, but we haven't really seen any whole lot of dominant racers this season. And that's been kind of the up and down with the next-gen car. That's been kind of cool to see. So, the dominator, to speak, where somebody goes out and leads 80-90% of a race, just really hasn't been there this year, which has been kind of exciting. But either way, Joey Logano pulling it out there at the end in the last 5 or so laps, getting past Ross and getting himself that top podium spot. So Joey Logano and Ross Chastain, number 1 and number 2. But also making that mix is Justin Haley, who had another great day. Faded there towards the end, but for a while ended up leading 11 laps. Martin Truex Jr., again, just a solid run. Just can't get that car to cross the finish line first. Maybe today will be the day. Not sure he's the best pick for today, but you never know. This next-gen car has added a lot of spice and intrigue to this season. Kyle Busch, struggling. He lost a tire at one point, he spun at one point, and still comes back and rallies for a third-place finish. I thought his day was done after his spin, and then especially after he lost the wheel under caution. That was quite impressive by Kyle Busch, but that's what Kyle Busch does. He just hasn't done it a lot this year. But AJ Allmendinger with another top 10 finish. AJ's having quite a little run here. So can AJ continue that streak of performing much hitting above his weight at mile and a half tracks? But Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe, Eric Jones, Tyler Reddick, all doing very well. And Noah Gragson making it into the other drivers not in the optimal, but still having 47.75 points in Draftkings. Quite impressive for Noah Gragson. He's going to be fun to watch next year. We don't have official word that Ty Gibbs is coming full-time, but between him, AJ Allmendinger, who is official to be in that 16 as a full-time driver next year, the three of them are going to make AJ won't be eligible for Rookie of the Year, but who will edge out who, Noah or Ty, for Rookie of the Year next year? But our optimal lineup challenge got much tighter up at the top. Ross getting another point, so he's now tied with Eric Jones at 11. Chase Elliott right on their heels with 10 optimal lineups. Christopher Bell and Kyle Busch all having 9. Kyle Busch has 9 optimal lineups this year, 2 away from the top spot, and just you would think he'd had the worst year in his career and still have that many optimal lineups is quite impressive by Kyle Busch. But either way, that was in the past. We now look towards the future. And last year's winner, which, God, it's hard to believe that was almost 18 months ago since we raced last at Homestead, Miami. It was the second or third race of the 2021 season. Still kind of fighting some of that COVID protocol stuff. And that's why they had it in Miami. They went to Daytona and then went straight down to Miami to lessen some of the travel. But either way, God, it's been 18 months for this track to have Cup Series on it. And it's aged a little bit. The tire wear seems to be a little bit higher, which hard to believe. It's a pretty high tire wear track. But either way, we are for the Dixie Vodka 400 Homestead, Miami. It is an intermediate style 1.5 mile track. Unlike the other 1.5 mile tracks that we go to every year, or all the other races are 1.5 mile D-shaped or tri-ovaled, like Charlotte, Kansas, Vegas, Texas, and those types. This is the true oval 1.5 mile. It was the home of the final race and the championship race for a long time until they moved it to Phoenix a couple years ago. But either way, race length here is 267 laps, which is pretty standard for the 1.5 mile tracks. We've got lots of data points to look at for that. The Dominator points here are 186, almost 187 points, just like the other ones. Laps led of 66.75, and the fast laps where the most points are is 120.15. So a total of 180, almost 7 points for Dominators. I think we are going to be looking for, it's a blend of two Dominators that one will end up being close to a Dominator, the other one will probably be in the top 3. So definitely looking to hone in on who those two drivers might be. And then looking for one more guy who, may not be a Dominator, may not lead a lot of laps or have fast laps, but ends up finishing in the top 5. And then the other 3 that we're going to really try to pull from are going to be the guys coming from the back. But either way, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you are a regular that comes in every week, check things out. Make sure you hit that like button. If you haven't subscribe, and always share with anybody else that you know that does fantasy racing. Would love to have them join our small community, but growing. But either way, that is where we're at. And for the track comparisons, we kind of pull in Kansas, Las Vegas. We also throw Darlington in this because Darlington is such a high groove, high tire wear track. And it's only 1.33 miles, so it's not too much shorter. But the tire wear and ripping the fence or ripping the wood, as they call it, when they're running that top high groove right next to the wall. Darlington plays that point also. But also, of course, we look at Miami. So we take a look at the tracks that we look at are the last 2 Miami races, 2021 and 2020. But those were in the last gen car. And for the next gen car, we're looking at Kansas from a couple weeks ago, Vegas from last week, and Darlington about 7 weeks ago. Those all were with the next gen car. Paul Moss, we have a top 5 bet. I'd check you out every. How cool! So who do you like, Paul? I'm thinking Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, or Denny Hamlin are, I think, probably your best bets for at least top 5s. I also like a potential of a Ross Chastain to be into that mix. And I don't love the Chase Elliott, but just because he hasn't performed great at 1.5 mile tracks. For the 5th pick, I'm going to go on a limb and probably I'm going to put Noah Gragson in there. There's some other young guys, John Hunter and Ty Gibbs, who both qualified extremely well. They practiced pretty well. They could play spoiler this week. So, but I like out of the 3 non-Cup regular drivers that are coming up from Trucks and Xfinity this week. You can't take AJ out of that mix, but personally, I would love to see the 45 finish well. Yeah, John Hunter definitely could have a shot at it. I mean, he's got Cup experience, just doesn't have a lot of experience in this car. He did test this car a few weeks ago here at Miami, so he's got some, but he doesn't have 267 laps behind him, and 10 to 20 to 30 races to get used to driving this car for that long. And it's different than the trucks in the Xfinity car, and it's different what he drove last year or 2 years ago in the Cup Series. And yes, you're picking Larson, Hamlin, and Chastain. Okay. I really like Tyler Reddick. He's consistently good here at this track, both in Xfinity and in the Cup Series. So I expect Tyler Reddick to finish very, very well today also. But, I mean, we didn't have the proverbial tire blowouts at Vegas that we were seeing at Texas and a little bit at Kansas. So I think the teams have kind of figured out the tire pressures, and the heat's going to be somewhat similar. It's going to be much more humid heat compared to the dry heat of Vegas. But yeah, I mean, the 45 is going to be fast today. They were super fast in practice and qualifying. But as every week, let's get down to the drivers and all the nitty-gritty stuff. I'll kind of detail the first driver and then kind of summarize the rest of them as we go. But Tyler Reddick, most expensive driver on the books today, $10,900. His starting spot, he qualified in 7th. Then we get into the gray area here where this is all of his practice information. He was 3rd on single lap fast speed. So the fastest lap that he turned, he was 3rd compared to everyone else. He did a total of 32 total laps of practice. And then we look at our consecutive lap averages. So they have to run 10 consecutive laps or 20 consecutive laps to get put into here. And Tyler Reddick was 8th at 10 laps and 1st on the 20 laps. So a little bit longer of a run. He was the fastest car on the track. And I think some long run speed will definitely come into play here. Noah Gragson definitely showed that yesterday. Not that the Xfinity car compares a whole lot to the Cup car, but there are some comparisons to look at. But Tyler Reddick is... So then the next line here, with 0 wins, this is comparing the 5 tracks up here. So the Miami, Kansas, Vegas, Darlington, and out of those 5 races, Tyler Reddick has 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 52.0 Draftkings average, and a 10th place average finish at those 5 tracks. He finished 2nd in this race last year at Miami, but remember, that was almost 18 months ago. But the track hasn't really changed a whole lot. He has 2 total races here at Miami, and both of those he's finished in the top 5. So I expect Tyler Reddick to... I mean, Tyler Reddick has been extremely fast at 1.5 miles so far this year. With all those things combined, I think Tyler Reddick is set up to potentially have a very, very strong day today. But there's always the variable out there of somebody else making a mess out of your day. All right, Kyle Larson, $10,800, another one who loves to rip that high side. It used to be for the longest time when he was the one who kind of started this trend of running right next to that fence. And then some other drivers have picked up on it. But Kyle Larson can run this track very, very well. He was pretty fast at practice. He qualified 5th. Now, remember, he did not race the 2020 Miami race because of his suspension. I'll be glad when we get rid of that saying and we have full stats for Kyle Larson. But 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s. 28.6 Draftkings average for those 5 tracks, 14.8 average finish. He finished 4th here in the race in 2021. He has 8 total starts here at Miami with 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 7 top 20s. I do like Kyle Larson today. Oh, I did forget to mention, over here to the top left is the rankings that I use. So it takes into all the 1.5 mile tracks over the course of this year and a little bit of last year. It looks into the last 10 races of what they've run. And, of course, the 5 tracks that are above, qualifying and practice, kind of run all those numbers through, and Tyler Reddick comes up as the number 1 spot. So, a little bit of PD upside from 7th, not a ton, but a little bit of room for Tyler to get some, if he finishes in the top 5, to get some place differential. But I'm really looking at Tyler Reddick to either be one of those dominators or / top 5 finishers that we need to target in on. Same thing with Kyle Larson. So I've got 35 to 40% ownership in Tyler Reddick, also in Kyle Larson. And when I talk about ownership, this is based on I do about 40 lineups a week. So in about 35 to 40% of those lineups, I've either got Tyler Reddick or Kyle Larson. And also the same for Denny Hamlin, who came in second on my ranking system. But Denny Hamlin, 10,600, starting 14th, 24th in single laps, so not great in single laps, but he did pick it up for the consecutive lap average, 10th and 7th. And if we look at his stats for those 5 races, he is the top of the crop. 1 win, 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s. So all 5 races he's finished in the top 20. A 61.1 DraftKings average, which is the best in the field, and a 4.2 average finish, which is also best in the field. He finished 11th here in 2021, and he's got 18 total starts at Miami with 4 wins. That's also the most of any active driver currently. 6 top 5s, 12 top 10s, and 16 out of 18 have been in the top 20. Starting 14th, we've got a decent amount of PD upside here play with Denny Hamlin, and as long as his pit crew doesn't screw him up, he should end up having a top 5 day. So all 3 of these drivers, you can't fit them all 3 in unless you go bottom barrel fishing, which I don't recommend for this race. So you're going to have to kind of intermingle these 3 drivers into that group. But I think those are your top 3 drivers. And, of course, they're the top 3 highest priced. Chase Elliott, 10,400. Chase has not been the best at mile-and-a-half tracks. His practice speeds were great. His qualifying was great, starting third. He was second in single lap, 6th in 10 lap, 11th in 20 lap average. He's got only 1 top 5 out of these 5 races. That is the concerning part, and a 16.8 average finish. And he finished 14th in this race last year. Mile and a halves have not been great for Chase Elliott unless you're at Atlanta, which is a super speedway now. He's never won here at Homestead. 6 starts with only 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, but all 6 in the top 20. Starting third is what bothers me about Chase Elliott, at least for DraftKings. I think he's probably a pretty safe play if you're doing the fantasy live on NASCAR.com, but I still like these 3 better. So I don't mind Chase Elliott. I don't love him either. So 10 to 15% ownership on Chase Elliott. Ryan Blaney, 10,200, who really needs a great points day. So expect Ryan Blaney to probably run fairly well. I'm not sure he's one of the ones that's going to vie for that top 5 spot, but I think he could very easily have a top 10 spot, and he potentially could. I mean, he won at Texas in the All-Star race, which is a mile-and-a-half track. Way different configurations. But 10,200, starting 13th. He was 21st in single lap, 13th in 10 lap, and 13th in 20 lap consecutive averages. He's only got 1 top 5 at the comparison tracks, a 16.4 average finish. But the difference between Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott is that 13th to 3rd starting spot. More PD upside play for Ryan, and a little more risk with Chase starting in 3rd. Ryan Blaney finished 29th in this race a year and a half ago. 7 total starts with only 1 top 5, but over half the time in the top 20. All right, our next grouping here. Kyle Busch, $10,000, starting 11th, 22nd in single lap. He did 24 total laps at practice, 18th in 10 lap consecutive average, and he slowed up a little bit with 20th in his 20 lap consecutive average. So that worries me a little bit. Even Kyle Busch said, the car wasn't handling quite where he wanted it, and was hoping that in the meetings after practice and qualifying that they could come up with a game plan to get that car up front. I'm sure they will. Kyle Busch has always seemed to fight his way up front, or at least get himself. I think he kind of finishes where he starts. I'm not sure he vies for the top 5, but I think he easily could be somebody who finishes, single digit or kind of finishes where he starts. He finished 10th in this race last year. He does have 2 wins here at Miami, with 5 top 5s, 11 top 10s, and 13 top 20s. So not bad for his history here at Miami. It's the other mile-and-a-half tracks that have me a little bit concerned, and his practice speeds were not great. So he's got some work to do. And starting 11th, kind of finish where you start. I've got 10 to 15% ownership with Kyle Busch. Now, if you're just joining, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Hit me up in the chat. Who do you like today for either or top 5? Who do you like for DraftKings? Who do you think may come from the back? who do we need to avoid? That's what we're talking about here today. So thanks for joining in. Let's head on. Joey Logano, last week's winner. Joey Logano is set for the round of 4. He has nothing to lose except for chase trophies today. Starting 17th, his practice speeds were not great. 26th on single lap, 22nd and 10 lap consecutive average, 12th and 20 lap consecutive average. Oh, Joey, he got that win at Vegas last week. It's good. I wouldn't say it's going to be checkers or wreckers for Joey. High tire wear, he does fairly well at. He did win Darlington earlier this year at a high tire wear track. Vegas, we saw some pretty high tire wear. I mean, I think where Joey's starting in 17th, I think there's a good potential for some PD upside here. He's just not my favorite to get into the top 5. I think he could get a top 10. He does have one win here. Got a 32.0 Draftkings average and a 14.8 average finish over the 5 tracks that we're comparing. I don't mind him. I've got 25 to 30%, so I'm pretty heavy on Joey, but that's mostly because of his starting spot. I think he's going to at least be a top 10 driver. All right, next in line here, we've got Ross Chastain, 9,600, starting 20th. A good chunk of PD upside play with Ross. 6th in single lap, 1st in 10 lap consecutive average, 5th in 20 lap consecutive average. Ross has brought some speed here, and Trackhouse has brought some speed here. 4 total starts at the comparison tracks. He did not race in 2020 here at Miami, but 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 51.3 Draftkings average, which is not far off from Denny Hamlin's 61 Draftkings average. 11.5 average finish. Finished 17th here in last year's race, where he only got his only top 20 out of his 3 total starts. But those races were with completely different cars and team owners. So you can look at those stats, but not pull them in too much. All right, Martin Truex Jr. next in line here. The guy right there with Ryan Blaney, just begging for a win this year. 9,400, starting 12th. His practice speeds weren't great. 20th in single lap, 14th in 10 lap consecutive, and 8th in 20 lap consecutive. But he does race fairly well here. He finished 3rd here in last year's race. He's got a 49.4 Draftkings average at the 5 tracks we're comparing, with 11.6 average finish. So not far off on average finishes from Ross, but starting 12th, not a whole lot of PD upside play. 18 total times he has raced here at Miami. He does have a win. 8 top 5s, 12 top 10s, and 16 out of 18 times he's finished in the top 20. Almost 75% of the time he's finished in the top 10. So Martin Truex Jr. is not a bad play here. He's been inconsistent this year, and that kind of worries me a little bit. So I only have 10 to 15% ownership in Martin Truex Jr. William Byron, 9,200, last year's winner here, and starting from the pole. In decent practice speeds, he was 12th in single lap, 4th in 10 lap, and 4th in 20 lap. So pretty consistent speed through practice. Grab that start, that number 1 pole position. That kind of bothers me a little bit. Other than I think he could lead a decent amount of laps. He could be potentially a dominator, at least when it comes to laps led and potentially fast laps. I think he might be able to cruise through the first stage. They will have to pit in both the first and second stage, and of course, at least once in that third stage. They may have to pit twice in that third stage. They'll be real close to the tire wear and / fuel mileage to make it. They can make it on 2, but by that point the tire wear is pretty shot. The tire wear falls off here. It's almost 2 seconds a lap, so it's a big tire fall off from fresh tires to 50 lap old tires. But either way, I mean, William Byron won this race last year. He's got a 58.9 Draftkings average and a 7-point average finish. I mean, he's one of the few drivers with single-digit average finishes at the comparison tracks. So yeah, I do like William Byron. I just don't love his starting spot. Even though this year, over half of the optimal lineups, the pole position has actually made it into the optimal lineup. So I'm still going to fade off a little bit. I think there's better plays. I think Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, Larson, Chastain potentially will rock the boat and upset William Byron from that number 1 starting spot. Okay, next in line here, we have got Christopher Bell, who, Christopher Bell, you wrong place, wrong time last week. You got the bad end of Bubba Wallace's rage quit. The problem was you were doing it in a real car this time, Bubba Wallace. $9,000. And I've been a Bubba Wallace, I wouldn't say fan, but I've been kind of rooting for Bubba Wallace to do well, and then he goes and pulls a stunt that he did last week. Yeah. As the door bumper clear, guys, what an idiot. Either way, starting second for Christopher Bell, fourth in single lap, 29th in 10 lap, and did not make a 20 lap consecutive average. That fall off concerns me a little bit with Christopher Bell. He looks like he's really fast to start, but Miami, you're going to need at least a car that's going to be able to keep you up front for 30 laps. So, yeah, I don't love the Christopher Bell because of his starting spot. He needs to win. He's going to almost have to win. He's going to go for stage points. He's 30 points in the hole. He needs a great points day to get even a shot at Martinsville to make it to the Final Four. So, yeah, we're going to see some different strategies out of Christopher Bell today. And starting second, if any of those strategies don't quite work, like stage points, I think he's definitely going to be out there to try to capture as many stage points as he can, which could hurt him towards the end of that final stage. So I just don't love the starting spot for Christopher, because I think after that it's going to be kind of, I need to finish top 5, and he might push it just a little too hard. So I don't love the Christopher Bell play starting in second. I do think he's going to charge, and he's going to run hard. Question is, does that bite him a little? Good. 10 to 15% ownership of Christopher Bell. Next in line here, we got the old wily veteran Kevin Harvick, 8,800, starting 16th, 23rd in single lap, 22nd in 10 lap, 23rd in 20 lap. Hey, at least you're consistent to be in the 20s. The problem is you're starting 16th. And his average finishes at mile and a half tracks have not been phenomenal this year. 22.4, 13.3 Draftkings average. He did finish 5th in this race a year and a half ago, but that was a different Kevin Harvick. That was a different car. That was a different a lot of everything. He's without his crew chief also here in this race. Starting spot's okay, but I faded off of Kevin Harvick. I'm probably sitting at only 10 to 15%. I am sitting at 10 to 15% ownership, but that's probably closer to the 10% ownership with Kevin today. Even though his stats here are really good. 20 out of 21 times he's finished in the top 20. Problem is, if you only get a 13th place finish, that doesn't do what I need you to do for DraftKings. So I faded off of Kevin Harvick. I just don't love some of the stats I'm seeing at mile and a half tracks for Kevin. Chase Briscoe, on the other hand, 8,500, starting 19th. Decent amount of PD upside here. He practiced fairly well, 8th in single lap, 14th in 10 lap consecutive average, and 9th in 20 lap. He's got a 15.5 average finish at mile and a half tracks. He finished 18th in this race last year, which is the only time he has run here. But he is on a mission right now. He has been running extremely well. Just got in to the round of 8 and is really trying to get himself into the round of 4, because he was the last winner at Phoenix, and that was in this next gen car. So, Chase Briscoe is going to do everything he can. He's also going to be kind of like Christopher Bell. He's going to go out and hunt for stage points. But starting 19th compared to starting second, I think Chase Briscoe has a much better PD upside play, which is kind of what we're looking for. We're looking for, those 3 drivers that potentially could get us a decent amount of place differential points. And Chase Briscoe may be one of those guys. So I have Chase Briscoe as potentially one of them. Also, Daniel Suarez starting 23rd. The problem with Daniel Suarez is he doesn't even have a top 10 here at Miami. He's only got 2 top 20s. And in the 5 comparison tracks, he's only got 1 top 10 and 4 top 20s. So starting 23rd, you got some PD upside play and an 18th place average finish. Starting 23rd, and your practice speeds were okay. They were consistent. 19th single lap, 15th 10 lap, 17th 20 lap. Okay, but I need Daniel to get to a top 10, and he potentially could. he and Ross have been bringing some really, really fast race cars to the track. I don't mind Daniel. I have a little bit more ownership than I do with Kevin Harvick with Daniel. I have 15 to 20% ownership with Daniel. So I don't love and I don't hate the Daniel Suarez play. So I'm probably even with the field with Daniel. Noah Gragson. Man, does Noah Gragson love this track? I mean, he has almost won every Xfinity race since he's been racing in Xfinity, and finally got that win last week. And in dominant fashion. If the late caution had not come out, I think he was up by like 6 or 7 seconds. It was just complete dominating, and it was all long run speed. He was getting eaten alive in short run speed. So it was a little worrying when that caution came out with like 9 laps left, and they went back racing with 5 laps left. But, you know, that's why he's got a great crew chief, and they bumped up those air pressures, and Noah Gragson was able to hold off AJ and Ty. So, you know, exciting race for Noah, and boy, was that guy whooped yesterday. I haven't seen him look that tired after a race in a long time. So hopefully that doesn't hurt him here a little bit. I'm sure he probably got some fluids and probably got some good protein in him, and hopefully he didn't celebrate too much last night because he's got a long 267 laps today. But 13th in practice, 7th and 10 lap, 15th and 20 lap, so practice speeds were okay. And next to Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson, Noah Gragson might be the best at ripping the boards and running that high line right next to that wall. Chase Briscoe is going to be another one that really knows how to do that really well. Starting 24th, I think there's a decent amount of PD upside play. I'm hopeful that Noah Gragson can get to a top 10. I mean, it's my long shot pick to potentially win this thing. So I think he's 40 to 1 are the odds on him. So, but either way, especially around that 48 Hendricks car, I expect Noah Gragson to have a pretty good day today. Eric Jones, 7,900, starting 22nd. I will go back to Noah 1 second. Other than I like John Hunter Nemechek's practice speeds, I just don't like how much experience he does and doesn't have in Xfinity on this next gen car. But to Eric Jones, 7,900, our winner at Darlington. Starting 22nd, 27th in single lap, 26th in 10 lap, didn't make a 20 lap consecutive average, and finished 27th in this race. Last year, only has one top 5 here out of 5 total races, and actually only one top 20. So 4 of those times he's finished outside the top 20. Worries me a little bit about Eric Jones, but he was also in crud equipment there for a little bit. I've got 15 to 20%. I think there's a PD upside play here. I'm not sure he vies for much more than maybe a 10th place finish, but 12 spots, that's probably good enough with a top 10 to put him in the optimal lineup. And he's made a bunch of optimal lineups this year. I expect a decent day from Eric. I don't expect a stellar day from Eric. So 15 to 20% ownership there, along with Austin Cindric, who starting 26. I'm not sure what happened with Austin. I think they just missed the setup coming off the truck. So starting 26, his practice speeds weren't great. He was 14th in single lap, so not bad, but then he really fell off on his 10-lap consecutive average, all the way down to 33rd. Literally almost last. In fact, he was last in 10-lap consecutive average. I don't know if he may have missed something in one of the corners that threw the averages off, but that's shockingly slow on the 10-lap consecutive average. But at the other 5, so he did not race the Miami 21 or 22. So the 3 races that we're comparing are all the Kansas, Vegas, Darlington, where he's got 2 top 20s. He's not bad at this style track. He's got some PD upside potential if things kind of fall right. Austin, I think best he could probably get to is maybe 15th to 10th. But, I mean, that's 11 PD spots. So I like Austin Cindric for the place differential. I don't really expect him to be in the top 10 spot. So 15 to 20%, hoping for a good PD play out of Austin Cindric. AJ Allmendinger, who is just, I don't know what he has hit, but he has hit a new high in his 1.5 mile track program. I don't know if he spent a lot of time in simulators or what's going on, but he's starting to finish races in mile-and-a-half tracks like he finishes them in road courses. Consistently in the top 10. He had a great race yesterday. It was his best finish ever in the Xfinity Series at Miami. So I starting 10th. Does he vie for a win or a top 5? I'm not sure, but does he vie for a 7, 8, 9th? Yeah, possibly. I mean, and finish that high, the points are pretty good. Yeah, he probably sprinkle in a few fast laps, maybe even a lap lead here or there. He was fast at practice, 7th in single lap, 2nd in 10 lap, 6th in 20 lap, and all the speeds are there. And at the 5 comparison, well, he's only got the one start, which was at Vegas last week, where he finished 9th. So I don't mind AJ Allmendinger. I don't love him. It's 10 to 15% ownership with AJ this week. Michael McDowell, 7,400, who is Mr. Top 10 consistent. And he fell off a little bit last week, but he's still been running really, really well week in and week out. Just consistent. He's not up there typically vying for a win or a top 5, but he just consistently hovers in that 10 or 5th through 10th spot. Starting 18th, 16th in single lap, 24th in 10 lap, 21st in 20 laps. Practices weren't bad. He pretty much qualified where he practiced, but he's got a 12.4 average finish. He's got 2. I remember he was in crud equipment for a long time. So only 2 top 10s out of 12, but running in crap equipment, still was able to pull 2 top 10s at Miami. At the comparison tracks, he's got a 12.4 average finish. He's got 5 top 20s. I mean, he's, other than Denny Hamlin, I think he's the most consistent at mile-and-a-halfs. So yeah, I mean, starting 18th, give me a top 20 at 7,400. Okay, you can pull off a 6. That's huge. So I do like some Michael McDowell, 15 to 20% ownership. Austin Dillon here at 7,200, starting 32nd. Austin, you're starting way in the back because you unloaded really slow. 29th in single lap, 24th in 10 lap. Did not get to a 20 lap consecutive average. But starting 32nd, his stats here are not bad. 2 top 10s out of the 8 total races. He's finished in the top 27 times, so only one time he's missed the top 20 here at Miami. In the 5 comparison tracks, 5 top 10s or 5 top 20s. Starting 32nd, I think he's almost a must-own, especially if you're kind of running in a cash league. So yeah, I've got 25 to 30% ownership of Austin Dillon. I like for him to at least crack the top 20. And if he does that, that's a big PD upside play at 7,200. I just wish his practice speeds were a little bit better, but they're going to have to do some work. And this track is big enough that he can stay on the lead lap through the first pit stop, and then the stage break, and hopefully they can make the adjustments that they need to get Austin Dillon. I mean, a 15th place finish starting 32nd will put Austin Dillon in the optimal lineup. So his bad qualifying may be our gain. So I like Austin Dillon as one of the better PD upside plays today. Brad K, who just slowly gets better and better as this year goes. I think Brad K is going to be a real potential as somebody to watch for next year. They've just been continually getting that team better and better. And it's showing. I mean, Christopher Buescher is running super well and has got a win from Texas earlier this year. He's been running better. Brad's been running better. Starting 9th, though, I don't know how much a better spot he improves to. So yeah, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s at the 5 comparison tracks. He finished 16th in this race last year at Miami. I mean, he's got a 10.6 average finish at the 5 comparison tracks. Yeah, he might finish where he starts. I'm not sure he gets any better than that, but that might still be enough if he can get a couple of laps led or some fast laps. I mean, I've got 10 to 15% ownership, and that's probably where his ownership's going to fall. I'm probably even with the deal with Brad. I don't love Brad, and I don't dislike Brad today. Same thing with his teammate, Chris Buescher, starting 8th, 6,900, 28th in single lap, 21st in 10 lap. And boy, did you improve your speed in qualifying. You were not fast in practice, so whatever adjustments they made, good for them. At the comparison tracks, he's got 3 top 20s, a 19.6 average finish, and finished 19th in this race last year. With all that being said, yeah, that's why I've only got 10 to 15% ownership of Chris Buescher. Starting 8th, I don't know if there's a great play here for Chris today. So we'll move on to Eric Almirola, 6,700, starting 28th. Well, you kind of practiced and qualified in the same spot. 25th in single lap, 23rd in 10 lap, 22nd in 20 lap. But he's not awful at mile-and-a-half tracks, or the comparison tracks. 1 top 5, 1 top 10, 3 top 20s, a 31.2 Draftkings average, a 17th place average finish. I mean, if he can hit his average finish, that's a good play. He did finish 30th in this race last year, but that was last year's car, and we got the next-gen car now. Out of 13 total starts here at Miami, he's got 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s, and 8 top 20s. And he gets himself into a top 20. He finished 17th. That's 11 spots of place differential. That's going to put him right there close to being potential optimal lineup. And at 6,700, I'm willing to take that risk. 25% ownership with Eric Almirola. Hey, if you're just joining in or new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like button. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you tuning in. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. next in line. Almost as many PD upside potential points here for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. compared to Eric Almirola. Eric Almirola's stats are better, but Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s practice speeds were better. Right? You give a little here, give a little there, take a little here, take a little there. I don't know. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Eric Almirola, both really good PD upside potential plays, I think. 22.7 DraftKings average at the 5 comparison tracks, so the 24.2 average finish. Not great, where Eric Almirola has a 17th place average finish. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr. practiced better, finished better last year, but overall has not cracked the top 10. I don't need him to crack the top 10. I need Ricky to get a solid 14th and have 13 place differential points. Those two could easily find their way into the optimal lineup. So I do like both of them. Justin Haley, who has just turned it up a notch this year. 6,300, starting 15th. He was 9th in single lap, 3rd in 10th lap, 10 lap average, 10th in 20 lap average. I tell you what, I'm not sure what happened other than Justin Haley went on Door Bumper Clear. And ever since he went on that podcast, he has turned a corner. I don't know. But I mean, the same thing could kind of almost be said about Haley Deegan. She's been running much better too after her appearance on Door Bumper Clear. These guys are doing something to them. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. All right. Either way, 4 starts at the comparison tracks. Justin Haley did not race the 2020 Miami race, but 3 top 20s, 34.5 DraftKings average, a 19.45 average finish. He only raced here once before, where he finished 26. Finish where you start at 6,300. It doesn't make optimal lineup, but it does get you probably into a cash situation. So don't mind Justin Haley. Got 20-25% ownership. All right, next in line here, John Hunter Nemechek filling in for the suspended Bubba Wallace, who took my guy out last week. That was just a bonehead move on his part. I mean, it wasn't the smartest move on Larson's part either, but they both would have been able to finish and continue on until somebody lost their temper and decided to wreck 3 people. All right, either way, on a different note, $6,000 for John Hunter, who gets the opportunity to drive that super fast 45. And I like the paint scheme with the, what is that, a swordfish or marlin? It's a marlin, I think. But either way, good looking paint scheme. Starting 4th, 1st in single lap fast speeds. He was fast coming off the truck. 5th in 10 lap, 3rd in 20 lap. The problem I fear with John, and he did do a test here a couple weeks ago and was pretty quick. My fear with John Hunter Nemechek here at this track is not consistently running in this car. And this car is just twitchy, and he didn't do well in the truck race yesterday. He scrubbed the ball, got it flat, and ended up ruining his truck season title hopes again. I've got, I think, John's in 3 of my lineups, and I'm very hesitant. I just don't think there's any way that John Hunter Nemechek holds on to a top 5 spot. Maybe a top 10, but I think he's probably closer to a 18th, 19th, 20th place finish, which would be a good day for him in this next gen car. I just starting 4th, it's way too high. So faded off there. Same thing with Ty Gibbs. Starting 6th, his practice speeds were nowhere near as good as John. Super qualifying spot for Ty, but yeah, no. I think I have him a total of 2 lineups. And I think it might be one of them with John Hunter Nemechek as kind of just a wild shot in the dark lineup. 18th in single lap, 19th in 10 laps, 16th in 20 laps. I mean, your practice speeds, you out-qualified yourself. But good for Ty, but the consistency here with Ty in this next-gen car has not been where it needs. 3 starts with 1 top 20, a 23.7 average finish for the 5 tracks, which is Kansas, Vegas, and Darlington. So don't love that spot there for Ty Gibbs. Ty Dillon next in line. Great starting spot. 30th. Practice speeds. We're about where you qualified. 33rd and 30th in 10 lap. And at the comparison tracks, you've only got 1 top 20. 25.8 average finish. Yeah, I don't need your average finish where you're starting. I need some possible attrition help for Ty. I'm not sure he gets to a top 20 unless there's some attrition up front. So I've only got him in 10 to 15% of my lineups. Nothing's pointing in the direction of Ty Dillon having a great day without help from others. And that would be bad help from others. Hey, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you're just joining in. I appreciate it. And let me know, who do you like to come from the back? Who's our value pick? Who do you think ends up winning this thing? Who you got in your lineups? Let me know. Cole Custer next in line here. 5,500, starting 25th. Kind of the same spot as Ty Dillon. Starting 25th, 30th in single lap, 25th in 10 lap, 26th in 20 lap. Finished 23rd in last year's race. And at the comparison tracks, he's only got 2 top 20s. So, and he's been running well. He just has had crappy luck. But until that crappy luck gets away from Cole, I just don't know if that's a great play. Even though it's a cool looking car. I do like the Dixie Vodka, almost tie-dye looking 41 Ford for him, but I just don't know. Practice speeds weren't there. Your qualifying speed was a little bit better, but almost a little too good for me. I think it's kind of a position of you're going to finish where you start. So I've only got 15 to 20% ownership. Harrison Burton did even better at qualifying and not great at practice, at least on the long run speed. 32nd in 10 lap, 17th in single lap. No top 5s at any of the 1.5 tracks so far this year. 26.3 average finish. Nothing indicates to me that I want any part of Harrison Burton today. If he were starting 31st, maybe. Next in line here, Todd Gillen. Starting 29th. We got some PD upside potential here, and I've kind of put Todd Gillen and Harrison Burton kind of in the same boat with experience and everything else. 31st in single lap speed, 31st in 10 lap, 27th in 20 lap, which I think might have been the slowest. I think there were only 27 guys that did 20 lap averages. No top 5s, 23rd place average finish. I mean, compared to Harrison starting 21st, there is a potential PD upside play, but not much. So I do have a little bit of ownership, 10 to 15%, because to get those high expensive guys, you got to have the lower priced guys. Probably my favorite low price value pick. Corey LaJoie starting 31st, 5th in single lap. Holy smokes, Corey, you're fast. But that faded off a little bit. Still not bad though. 7th in 10 lap consecutive average, 18th in 20 lap consecutive average, starting 31st. I think there's a ton of PD upside play here. Other than the fact he finished 36th in this race last year. So if that happens, you're losing points. 5 total starts with only 1 top 20. I don't care. Corey, at $5,000, if Corey can get to 20th, that's a huge win, because you putting $5,000 in your lineup, you have a ton of money left over to spend on the Tyler Reddicks and Denny Hamlins and Larsons and Chastains. Landing Castle starting 33rd, 32nd in single lap, 27th in 10 lap, 25th in 20 lap. So practice speeds were not great. Landon's going to need a lot of help to move up the board with attrition. If not, I think Landing Castle's a 28th place car, and that's probably a good day. It's not Landon. They don't have the engineering behind that 77 car. So if he gets some attrition help, I think Landing Castle could finish only a lap down, maybe 2 laps down if he doesn't have any issues. But don't love the Landing Castle, and we're now down to the grouping that I don't have any interest in. Cody Ware, 36, is 35th in practice. BJ McLeod, 35th, 36th in practice. No interest. JJ Yaley, 34th and 34th in practice. No interest. So don't take any of those guys. The only place they ever do well at is at the Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta style tracks. So, or just a fluky race that everybody decides to wreck each other and they're not involved in the carnage. So no interest there. So let's go back. I like Reddick, Hamlin, Larson, Chastain as the highest owned number 1 drivers. So it's kind of one of those. If you don't have them and they do well, you're screwed. If you do have them and they do well, you're right there with everybody else. If you have them and they do bad, guess what? You're right there with everyone else. I think it's much more of a pro than a con to take these guys because if they hit and you don't have them, your day's not gonna go great. Where you really differentiate your lineups are going to be in this place differential group or potential finishing spot group. Daniel Suarez coming from 23rd, Noah Gragson coming from 24th, Austin Dillon from 32nd, and Eric Almirola from 28th would be my 4 picks for largest PD upside play. Chase Briscoe knows how to rip the top really well. 19th, so there is some PD upside play with him also. Finishing spots, Ryan Blaney could easily have a top 10, top 5, along with Kyle Busch. William Byron could easily hold there, but it scares me taking the pole sitter, but I do have some ownership in him. AJ's been on a tear lately. Chase Elliott and Christopher Bell kind of scare me with their starting spots, but they could easily have really good finishing spots also. And for value, I do have Landon Castle on here, but I don't love it. I'd much rather probably take a Todd Gillen, Michael McDowell. All these guys are under 7,500. So, if you really got to dig deep, I'm not sure why Corey LaJoie wasn't on here, but Corey LaJoie would be my absolute number 1 value pick. And behind that, Castle and Gillen. I don't know if you can you line up that fits all this? 1 second. We'll try to put that lineup together real quick. The All right, here's one of the free entries. Let's see. Create a new lineup. Yeah, let me move this over. All right. So can you go Larson, Hamlin, then go LaJoie, Gilliland, and wow, you can go all the way up to 7,600. What happens if we take Gilliland out and put in, who did I say? Group. Gregson, Briscoe, no. Oh, let's put Eric in there. Almirola, that leave us 6,000. Then you could go Ty Dillon. Not a bad lineup. It's a free one. We'll just put it in there. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so that's what taking those guys at $5,000 will let you do is get into that spot. All right. So that kind of goes through that. Let's go look at some optimal lineups from previous Miami races. 2021, they were still doing the weird qualifying stuff, so they didn't actually qualify. I mean, Reddick starting in 35th, huge PD upside play. Same thing with William Byron from 31st, but they finished first, second, and third. Truex Jr. So we had one Dominator, 3 place differentials, 2 values, still had $200 left on our salary cap. In 2020, still with COVID protocol stuff happening, Hamlin from the pole finished first, led 137 laps, so one true Dominator there. 70 laps led from Brian Blaney, so we had one Dominator, almost 2 Dominators, 3 place differentials, 2 values, and 4 people finishing in the top 5. $1,700 left. And then from Kansas and Darlington, 1 Dominator, 2 place differentials, 2 values, and 4 finishing. Kind of the same thing. 1-ish Dominator at Darlington, 3 place differentials, 3 finishing spots. So we're really looking for that 1, 2, and maybe a third person that might be able to finish in the top 5 for us. Then it's 3 place differential guys. That's kind of what you're trying to find up here. So either way, I appreciate you tuning in. I always try to keep this under an hour. We are at 6 minutes, so I'll let you guys get to it. You've got about an hour or so to get those lineups in and set and enjoy the race today. Enjoy some football if that's what you're happening to watch. Enjoy the weather. Have a great week. We are down to it. Next week, I will be at the Martinsville race and do not have great cell phone service and don't have the use of my rig / studio on the road. So I will try to put together a preview before qualifying. And then if I get a chance, maybe I'll actually just take some notes and go live from Martinsville. I've never done that before, so maybe a mobile live might be interesting. So stay tuned for that. We'll see what happens. That could be interesting, and maybe afterwards, maybe even do a live after. But either way, thanks for joining. Hit that like, subscribe button. We're down to it. Just a few more races left this year, and then we all get to kind of take a little bit of a needed break, but I always miss it by about the 3rd or 4th week. But then Christmas is here, and then you got New Year's, and then we've got NFL playoffs, so it goes by pretty quick. So either way, appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you next week. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so got to be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checker. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah!
Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day.
Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
Great job, guys.
Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal we got in here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.